International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea ruled this and blah and that. Blah. Well, because they're lawyers. And they love reading cases. And they love, well, of course, you have to be careful not to violate the, Saiga doctrine, named after this seized ship from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I'm not kidding. And they know about it because they're lawyers. So I worry that it undermines our decisiveness. It'll make the president hesitate when he shouldn't. That is not saying he won't be able to do anything and he'll never do anything. Did you all notice this moment when Obama said, shoot him? That was kind of cool. Right? The pirates had seized this, ooh. I don't think that was actually authorized under the Law of the Sea Treaty, Hey, if Obama did it, I believe that future presidents would do it under this treaty or not. But maybe they would hesitate on some other things when they shouldn't. And you just don't want the president, when he's in a serious foreign international crisis, saying, call my lawyers. No, I mean the specialists in international law. You want him to say, hold all calls, especially from the International Law Division in the legal advisor of the State Department. We're doing serious stuff now in the White House. We can't be distracted. That's what you want from him. And each year it gets a little harder to believe that the president has the good sense to realize he's the commander-in-chief, not the International Committee of the Red Cross, not the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. He's the one with the aircraft carriers. He's the one we're going to blame. He's the one who's responsible for protecting us, right? And it's you. And I think more and more presidents have the instinct to say, well, yeah, it's me and my team, which is, The Hague, Geneva, UN headquarters. Okay, but of course, in the end, if there is some disaster, we will blame the president because we're Americans. We will not say, as people say in Europe, I don't know, it was just fate. We want to blame someone. So that saves us. But we're making ourselves stupider than we are. Right? We're making ourselves believe in, yeah, but what about the tooth fairies that are, out there? And what about, we're Americans. We should know better. It's our aircraft carriers that are protecting us. It's not the International Criminal Court. Okay, last question.
And you said the International Criminal Court can't bring Israel before it unless the U.S. agrees.
I believe that is correct, although they have a fallback strategy. See, the way that statute works, they call it statute, the treaty. They have jurisdiction over nationals of signatory states. Well, Israel's not stupid enough to sign this. They also have jurisdiction if the crime was committed in the territory of a signatory state. Well, Israel's going to say, well, it wasn't committed, it's Gaza. Well, the Palestinians have thought of this, and they said, oh, by the way, we want to be now recognized as a signatory state. And by the way, we've signed it. That's great, you signed it, but, the Knights of Columbus can sign it, the Kiwanis Club can sign it. It doesn't make them a signatory state because they're not a state, and Gaza is not a state. But it's known, actually. The prosecutor actually announced that he'd received, legal arguments about this, which he was considering. Could maybe Gaza be under his jurisdiction because it was kind of like a state? It was the moral equivalent of a state. I think this is a preposterous argument, and if he proceeds on this basis, there ought to be a lot of shrieking. But the same people in Europe who say, oh, I don't know if things happen, will say about that, oh, I don't know if things happen.
So how does the U.S. play into it?
I think we should say very loudly it's an outrage. And we should also say, look, what does it matter? Israel's going to say, we don't accept this. Okay, so then the next thing is, if your people travel in a country that does respect it, maybe they're subject to arrest, right? So we have to say we'd like the, indicted high officers of the Israel Defense Force to fly in Air Force One from now on, just because that'd be kind of fun, and see if anyone wants to try and arrest them. I don't know what we do, really. But, there's something just so preposterous about these people, puffing themselves up into, we're in charge of the world here in The Hague. The prosecutor, You know who he is? He's a guy from Argentina, and his claim to fame is he started to prosecute the colonels, or the generals, actually, it's Argentina, they were actual generals, who during the 70s and 80s did all this terrible, torture and human rights violations, right? There was a military coup in Argentina, and the military government did a lot of abusive stuff, and then there was a transition to democracy, and the new democracy set up a prosecutor to go back and prosecute these generals. And he started into, I'm going to indict you and you and you, and then they threatened another coup. And the president of Argentina, the elected president of Argentina, said, you know what, this wasn't a good idea, they're all pardoned, let's have an amnesty. So this is the guy we're saying, hey, he really knows what he's doing, We have to be able to say, this is, come on now, Yes?
Sort of a preposterous question, I suppose, but do you ever think it might get to the point where we would have to say, we have these 15 aircraft carriers, and if you try and arrest our people, we may use them?
It's already at that point. One of the great legacies of the late Senator Helms was the American Service Persons Protection Act. Service members, yeah, I knew there was some ridiculous, yeah. Service Members Protection Act, right? Which is if any member of the American Armed Forces, and there's actually a long list of, member of the American Armed Forces, friends of the American Armed Forces, members of allied armed forces, members of armed forces that we like, even though they're not allied to us. There's a whole long list. The president is authorized to do anything and everything up to and including use of military force to get them out of foreign custody. So yes, we are talking about aircraft carriers. And this has to be said very loudly. If any American is so much as, spoken to rudely by a policeman in a foreign country. I mean, any American in uniform. This is totally, utterly unacceptable to have foreign countries arresting Americans, not for something they did in that country, which that'd be something, but because somebody said something about what they did in Afghanistan, which the people who don't fight in Afghanistan but sit on the sidelines and judge think, I don't know, that you didn't get a very good review from your effort in Afghanistan. I mean, this is totally unacceptable. And I mean, probably it's not going to require force, but we should be really screaming loudly. Right? This happened, right? The Belgians tried to indict Donald Rumsfeld, yeah. Right? And we said, NATO headquarters is now in Belgium and isn't going to be, because we're not going to a place where, our defense secretary can be arrested. And in solidarity with him, and also because they work for him, all of the American, military chiefs will also avoid Brussels. So we'll have to move NATO headquarters. And they said, this was a misunderstanding. And we have to say this to everyone. I mean, you mess with an American, it's a misunderstanding, or else you'll say afterwards it was a misunderstanding, right? I mean, well, this is really totally unacceptable. And if it becomes acceptable, you are saying that they're not our troops anymore, that they're somehow working for these characters in The Hague, right? That can't be right. Okay, I feel that I've tried your patience and disturbed you enough, so thank you. I will leave now.